Only a few hours remain before the Week 2 contest against the Raiders. We've had a lot of discussions throughout the week, covering almost every angle. How the Chargers won their first game, the mistakes they made even in that victory, what they need to do against the Raiders, and how they can come out on top in this second matchup as well. This right here is basically our final analysis before the actual game kicks off. What's up, Chargers fans? Welcome to the NFL Playbook Chargers. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. This channel is all about breaking down everything you need to know about the Bolts. Earlier this week, Jim Harbaugh mentioned an interesting fact. He said these division games are worth 2.5 wins because of their impact on standings and tiebreakers. So, yeah, this one matters a lot. One of the most interesting storylines for me is the rookie running back matchup. The Raiders have Ashton Jeanty, the 6th overall pick, and the Chargers have Omarion Hampton, who went 22nd. Neither guy lit up the stat sheet in Week 1. Hampton had 48 yards on 15 carries. Jeanty had 38 yards and a touchdown on 19, but both showed flashes. If either one of them gets rolling tonight, it could completely change the dynamic of this game. And that means their offensive line also needs to perform well to give them a chance to make an impact. Then there's Brock Bowers. This guy is a matchup nightmare. The Raiders move him around so much. Sometimes he's lined up as a tight end, sometimes as a receiver, and he creates problems no matter where he's at. The Chargers are countering with their big nickel package and leaning heavily on Derwin James to keep him in check. If Bowers is healthy and close to full speed, this battle could be one of the biggest deciding factors tonight. And don't forget about Khalil Mack. Every time he plays his former team, he brings a little extra. He's had 11.5 sacks in 8 games against the Raiders. That's insane. With the Raiders' offensive line still having issues, Mack could absolutely disrupt their entire game plan. Now, I am pretty sure the Chargers are the favorite heading into this matchup. There are a few concerns that are bothering me. First, injuries on defense could be a real issue. With Elijah Molden and Denzel Perryman ruled out, the Chargers will be forced to rely on backups like R.J. Mickens, Tony Jefferson, and Troy Dye, players who are primarily special teamers. This could create vulnerabilities, especially against a Raiders team looking to exploit mismatches. Then, Maxx Crosby looms large. Last season, the Chargers contained him with their elite tackle duo of Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt. But now, with Slater out for the season, Trey Pipkins steps back into the lineup at right tackle, and Crosby will almost certainly target that matchup throughout the game. If Pipkins struggles, Justin Herbert could face relentless pressure. And then there's the running game. The Chargers only averaged 3.6 yards per carry last week, and the Raiders' run defense, led by Adam Butler, is just as stout as Kansas City's. If LA can't establish the run, their offense will become predictable, putting more pressure on Herbert to carry the load. Last thing, offensive momentum is not guaranteed. Greg Roman had a fantastic game plan last week, but consistency is key. If Quentin Johnston doesn't replicate his breakout performance, or if Ladd McConkey and Keenan Allen struggle to get open, the Chargers' offense could sputter and lose rhythm. And Pete Carroll's defensive mindset can't be underestimated. His Raiders gave up only 13 points in Week 1 and thrive on dragging teams into gritty defensive battles. If this turns into that kind of game, it could neutralize the Chargers' talent advantage and make things uncomfortably close. Okay, now let's talk about the other Week 2 games. In the AFC West, the remaining 2 teams, the Broncos and the Chiefs, both unfortunately, or fortunately depending on how you see it, lost their respective games. Personally, I feel a mix of emotions here. I'm happy because this opens up a golden opportunity for the Chargers to take the lead in the division. At the same time, I'm a bit disappointed because it's never fun to see teams from my division lose. But what's more important here is analyzing how these games impact the Chargers. The Chiefs lost again, this time to the Eagles, the defending champions, in what was considered a rematch showdown. Even though the final score was very close at 20-17, this game revealed a lot about both teams. From an analyst's perspective, this game was a classic example of execution under pressure and complementary football. The Eagles didn't dominate statistically. In fact, the Chiefs outgained them 294-216, but Philadelphia won the moments that matter most. The pivotal play came early in the fourth quarter when A. Mukuba came up with a critical interception at the goal line, completely flipping momentum and halting what looked like a sure Chiefs scoring drive. From there, the Eagles leaned on Saquon Barkley, whose consistent production on the ground, 88 yards and a touchdown on 22 carries, allowed them to control the tempo and the clock. holding the ball for over 5 minutes longer than Kansas City. Jalen Hurts wasn't flashy, but his poise in the red zone, capped by a quarterback sneak for the decisive touchdown, showcased the team's situational efficiency. Kansas City, on the other hand, created explosive plays, including a late 49-yard touchdown strike from Mahomes to Thornton, but their offense lacked consistency. Costly penalties, missed field goals, and 2 sacks in critical situations repeatedly stalled drives. While Mahomes was dangerous with his legs and arm, the Chiefs went just 1 for 2 in the red zone, compared to the Eagles' perfect 2 for 2. In the end, this was a victory built on discipline and resilience. Philadelphia didn't beat themselves, played clean football with 0 turnovers, and made the right adjustments down the stretch. That combination, along with a key defensive stand and strong game management, ultimately sealed a gritty 20-17 win on the road. Now, the Chargers will face the Eagles in Week 13, and my focus is already on that game. Essentially, I'm trying to figure out who will be the favorite when the Chargers and Eagles clash. Judging by how the Eagles have been playing, they look like a very strong team. They are the defending champions and have proven themselves by winning their first 2 games. The Chargers are also looking strong, but I'm not fully convinced yet. Tomorrow's game against the Raiders will reveal a lot about where the Chargers truly stand. Now, let's talk about the other divisional game, Broncos versus Colts. This was another close contest, with the Broncos losing by just 1 point. This was also a game that showcased the value of composure and execution in critical moments. The Broncos had control for much of the game, building a 28-20 lead early in the third quarter on the back of Bo Nix's efficient passing and J.K. Dobbins' steady ground attack. However, the Colts stayed within striking distance, leaning heavily on Jonathan Taylor, who exploded for 165 rushing yards, including a massive 68-yard run late in the fourth that completely shifted momentum. While the Broncos were perfect in the red zone, 3 for 3, their inability to sustain drives in the final quarter and a costly interception by Nix at the Colts' 9-yard line opened the door for Indianapolis. The real difference came down to situational football. The Colts' defense bent but didn't break, holding Denver scoreless in the fourth quarter while their offense capitalized on short fields and big plays. Rookie kicker S. Schrader's nerves of steel were also pivotal. He went 5 for 5 on field goals, including the game winner as time expired. Denver hurt themselves with penalties and a missed 42-yard field goal in the final minutes, which proved devastating. In the end, Indianapolis' balance of explosive offense and timely special teams execution allowed them to edge out a 29-28 comeback victory, turning what looked like a Broncos win into a statement game for the Colts. The Broncos' performance showed that they could be an easy target for the Chargers, as long as the Chargers stay healthy. Honestly, it feels like the Chargers have a golden opportunity to stay unbeaten in the division this year. Imagine the Chargers leading the division with an 8-0 record, or even 6-2 if we consider their history of choking at times. Anything less than that just doesn't cut it. The Chargers' playoff chances are now looking stronger than ever. Tomorrow's game against the Raiders has become even more interesting and significant. I'm very confident the Chargers will win this game, but how they win, whether it's a dominant blowout or a close battle, will tell us a lot about how the rest of their season will unfold. Not much time remains until kickoff, so let's reconvene for analysis after the game. Hopefully, we'll be discussing a Chargers victory when we meet again.